Hello. Today's story takes place in 2007. An American exchange student in Italy became entangled in a murder case. The victim was an England person. The suspect was an American, but the incident occurred in Italy. Opinions on whether the American exchange student was the perpetrator were nearly evenly split, with supporters on one side and opponents on the other. No one could persuade the opposing side. The case, from the moment it occurred, garnered significant attention. The entire case was incredibly complex, with many twists and turns. Though it was somewhat complicated, the details were exceptionally captivating. The case was considered a major event, drawing simultaneous interest from both Europe and America. This is the story of the Angel Assassin case in Italy. The story takes place in the city of Perugia in central Italy. Perugia is a mountainous city, with most of the houses built on the slopes, reflecting the local characteristic. The city has a strong artistic atmosphere and retains many architectural structures from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. From above, the cityscape appears picturesque. Perugia has a population of about 150,000, with more than a quarter being students, including many international exchange students. The main character of the story is Amanda Knox, one of many students who came to Perugia. She was born in 1987, making her 20 years old at the time. Amanda came from Seattle, Washington in the US. She was studying at the University of Washington and had come to Perugia, Italy, as an exchange student, planning to study there for a year. However, no one expected that shortly after her arrival in Italy, a major event would unfold. So, what happened on that day? How did the whole event unfold? Let's turn back time to September 20th, 2007, to explore the details of the incident. On September 20th, 2007, which was a Thursday, Amanda arrived in Perugia. The university she was attending was called the University for Foreigners in Perugia. She found accommodation at 7 Via della Pergola, just 200 meters from the university, a short walk away. It was a 2-story apartment built on a hillside, like most other houses in the region, with distinctive local features. The surrounding scenery was also beautiful. Although the apartment had 2 floors, there was no internal staircase connecting the two. To get to the first floor, one had to use the external stairs. In other words, the first and second floors were separate apartments. Amanda would live with 3 other female students on the second floor. Let's take a look at the layout of the apartment. This is the position of the entrance, the only entryway into the apartment from the outside. Stepping inside, there is a shared living area with a sofa, dining table, refrigerator, and TV. On the other side of the living area is the kitchen. Although the space isn't large, it is equipped with basic necessities and serves as the common area for the 4 female students. Next are 4 bedrooms. Amanda was assigned the room in the middle. The room next to hers belonged to Meredith Kercher, a 21-year-old British exchange student. The remaining 2 rooms, the room near the entrance was occupied by Filomena, and the other room was occupied by Laura. Both Filomena and Laura were Italian and were trainee lawyers. The apartment had 2 bathrooms, one near the entrance and one at the back. Additionally, there was a balcony where one could sunbathe and enjoy the view of the mountain. Shortly after settling in, Amanda found a part-time job at a local bar called The Cheek. During her free time, she would go to the bar to work as a server to earn extra income to cover living expenses. The bar owner, Mr. Lumumba, was very impressed with Amanda from their first meeting and quickly hired her. Amanda had a cheerful and lively personality, and she was excellent at attracting customers, often engaging in conversation with them. Sometimes Mr. Lumumba had to remind her to stop chatting and return to work. Amanda quickly adapted to life in Italy and bonded with her roommates. On October 25th, Amanda and Meredith, her British roommate, attended a concert together. There, they met a handsome Italian named Raffaele Sollecito. Amanda, who was a big fan of Harry Potter, was impressed by Sollecito's resemblance to Harry Potter. As a result, the two began dating. From that point on, Amanda started spending the night at Sollecito's apartment instead of returning to her own. However, the 2 apartments were not far apart, just a 5-minute walk. On October 31st, Halloween night, students organized a big party. Meredith, Amanda's roommate, dressed up as a vampire and looked very happy. Unfortunately, that was the last photograph of her in life. The next day was a holiday. There was no work or school. Both Italian roommates had gone home, leaving the apartment empty. Amanda, absorbed in her passionate new relationship, also did not return to the apartment. Thus, Meredith was alone in the apartment. On that day, Meredith returned to the apartment around 9 p.m. However, what happened next would completely change her fate. On November 2nd, 2007, a local Italian woman found 2 mobile phones in her garden. Feeling it was unusual, she brought them to the postal police. The postal police are a law enforcement agency in Italy, responsible for postal and telecommunications-related cases. Upon receiving the information, the postal police traced the registration address of one of the mobile phones and found it was registered to 7 Via della Pergola, Amanda's apartment. The location where the phones were found was about 500 meters from Amanda's apartment, so the postal police took the mobile phones to 7 Via della Pergola. When the postal police arrived, they saw a man and a woman standing at the door looking extremely worried. The two were Amanda and her boyfriend, Sollecito. Amanda told the postal police that when she arrived, the apartment door was open and one of the bedrooms was locked. That room belonged to Meredith. Amanda had tried to call Meredith but received no signal. She was very concerned. At 12:51 a.m., after the postal police arrived, Sollecito called the police.
Minieri? Pronto, buongiorno. Senta, qualcuno è praticamente entrato in casa sfondando la finestra e ha messo molto disordine, c'è una porta chiusa. La via è...
Shortly after receiving the report, Carabinieri, the National Gendarmerie of Italy, arrived at the scene. They entered the apartment, asked everyone to leave, and then forcibly broke into the locked bedroom. The room was in disarray, bloodstains everywhere. Meredith lay motionless on the floor, her body covered by a blanket, her throat slashed, and no signs of life remained. Police immediately cordoned off the scene, called for additional support, and conducted a forensic examination. From Meredith's location to the apartment's entrance, the police discovered a trail of blood-stained footprints in the bathroom. Blood was found on the blue bath mat, faucet, light switch, sink, and various other places. The toilet showed signs of having not been flushed. The window in the bedroom near the entrance was broken. On the bedroom floor, the police found a stone that seemed to have been thrown through the window. They also found a bra with its straps cut. The autopsy revealed that Meredith died from excessive blood loss and asphyxiation after her throat was cut. There were signs of sexual assault on the victim's body, and the police had also collected the perpetrator's DNA from her body. The police interrogated Amanda and Sollecito, the first 2 people to arrive at the scene. According to Amanda's statement, on the evening of October 31st, the day before the murder, she was at Sollecito's apartment. They watched the film Le Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain together. During the movie, Amanda received a text from Lumumba, the bar owner, stating that the bar was quiet that night and Amanda didn't need to work. Consequently, Amanda stayed at Sollecito's apartment and spent the night there. The next morning, Amanda returned to her own apartment. Upon arriving, she noticed the front door was open and there was nothing unusual inside. So she went back to her room. Everything seemed normal. She then went to the bathroom to shower. She noticed a few drops of blood in the sink, thought it was just someone having cut their hand. Though she didn't pay much attention, she brushed her teeth and then took a shower. When she stepped onto the bath mat, she saw a larger streak of blood. Amanda suddenly felt that something was wrong. The more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. She quickly dressed and left the apartment, heading straight to Sollecito's place. Afterward, Amanda and Sollecito returned to her apartment together. They went inside and saw much larger bloodstains on the floor. They tried to open Meredith's bedroom door, but it was locked. Sollecito repeatedly knocked on the door and called Meredith's name. There was no response. Sollecito then tried to kick the door twice, but couldn't get it open. Finally, the two went outside to discuss what to do. Sollecito decided to call the police. After a preliminary investigation, the police discovered the window in the bedroom near the entrance was broken. On the floor, there was a stone that appeared to be used for a break-in. However, there were no signs of climbing on the outside of the window. It seemed the perpetrator might have staged the scene to look like a break-in. Reviewing the footage from that day, the police observed Amanda and her boyfriend Solicito comforting each other very intimately under the circumstances. Their behavior seemed highly inappropriate. The first people on the scene were likely the perpetrators. At this point, Amanda and Solicito became the prime suspects for the police. In the following days, the police interrogated the two repeatedly. Solicito claimed that the night before the crime, Amanda had stayed at his apartment all night and only left the following morning. The police clearly did not believe Solicito's statement. They pressured him, suggesting that his American girlfriend was a skilled liar who had deceived him. Solicito was in a very precarious situation, and if he did not tell the truth, he might be dragged down by her. Eventually, Solicito changed his statement. He told the police that he had lied and that everything he had said before was due to Amanda's demand. He said that on that night, he had stayed home all night, but Amanda returned only at 1 a.m. In another interrogation room, the police examined Amanda's phone and found a message from the bar owner sent to her the night before the police received the report. The message informed Amanda that she did not need to work that night. Amanda had replied in Italian, "Ci vediamo, buona serata," which means "see you, have a good evening." Amanda explained that her reply meant "I understand," an polite response. However, the police did not think so. They believed the message meant Amanda would meet the bar owner that evening. The more they investigated, the more suspicious they became of Amanda. They began to adopt a harsh attitude towards her, even patting her on the shoulder and demanding she recall where she was that night. Amanda, just a 20-year-old girl, was under severe pressure and was nearly breaking down. She began to remember that on that night, she hadn't stayed at her boyfriend's apartment all night, but had returned to her own apartment once. When she returned, she saw a man in a coat leaving, who was Lumumba, the bar owner. After that, Amanda heard Meredith scream. Amanda told the police that it was Lumumba who had killed Meredith. Amanda's statement not only put herself in jeopardy, but also intensified the suspicion on Solicito. Police decided to arrest Amanda, Solicito, and the bar owner. In an instant, everything seemed to point to Lumumba. The media reported widely, creating a public uproar, with everyone believing the perpetrator had been caught. However, Lumumba quickly provided an alibi and was released. If Lumumba was not the perpetrator, why did Amanda falsely accuse him? Amanda's actions clearly made her even more suspicious. The police then obtained a search warrant for Solicito's apartment. They found a small knife in the kitchen drawer. The knife had Amanda's DNA on the handle and Meredith's DNA on the blade. This knife matched the weapon that caused the fatal wound on Meredith's neck. The police had a very valuable lead. There was no more solid evidence than this knife. The news spread quickly, and Amanda became the center of public attention. Everyone was convinced that she was the culprit. Due to Amanda's attractive appearance, some newspapers labeled her as the angel assassin. During the investigation, the police identified the owner of the DNA found on the victim's body as a man named Rudy Gade. In Meredith's bedroom, the police also found numerous fingerprints belonging to this man. Feces in the bathroom also belonged to him. Rudy had a prior conviction for burglary. After the crime, he fled to Germany, where he was later arrested and extradited back to Italy. Rudy admitted that he had been at Meredith's house that evening and had sexual relations with her, but he denied committing the murder. Rudy claimed that while he was in the bathroom, he heard screams and ran out to see what was happening, only to see a man running out of the door and fleeing. Because it was dark, he could not clearly see the man's face. Rudy then saw Meredith bleeding profusely. Terrified, fled the scene. Rudy also said that Amanda was not involved and was not present at the scene. However, at trial, Rudy changed his testimony, stating that he had seen Amanda leaving through the window that night. Ultimately, Rudy was convicted of involvement in the murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison. A few years later, Rudy appealed and had his sentence reduced to 16 years. Although Rudy was convicted, he seemed to attract little attention. All the focus remained on Amanda. After more than a year of investigation, The police gathered evidence and formally charged Amanda and her boyfriend. This high-profile international case attracted widespread attention. On January 16, 2009, more than a year after the crime, the official trial began. Defendants Amanda and Solejito were charged with murder. The prosecutor alleged that Amanda was a promiscuous girl who frequently brought her boyfriend home. Based on all the collected evidence, the prosecutor reconstructed the events of the crime as follows. That night, after finishing the movie, Meredith returned to the apartment alone. She saw Amanda, Solejito, and Rudy. Amanda asked Meredith if she wanted to join them for a new game. Meredith insulted Amanda, calling her immoral. Amanda became angry, feeling that Meredith had no right to judge her. They then had a fight and started a scuffle. Solejito used the small knife from his leather bag to threaten Meredith. Meredith resisted fiercely, but was ultimately killed by them. To support this argument, the prosecutor presented several key pieces of evidence. 1. The weapon that caused the fatal wound to the victim was a small knife. This knife was found in Solejito's apartment. The handle of the knife had Amanda's DNA, while the blade had Meredith's DNA. 2. In Meredith's bedroom, the police found a bra hook. The hook had Solejito's DNA on it. Bruises on the victim matched Solejito's body size. 3. Amanda claimed that on that night, she also heard Meredith's screams. Amanda then falsely accused the bar owner Lumumba. However, Lumumba provided an alibi. This showed that Amanda was constantly lying and her testimony was full of deceit and unreliable. She had certainly been at the scene. 4. There were several footprints on the bath mat in the bathroom. Some footprints belonged to Meredith, while the others matched Solejito's foot size. 5. The bedroom window near the entrance was broken. There was a stone in the room. However, there were no signs of an intrusion from outside. The perpetrator had broken the window to create a false break-in scenario. On December 4, 2009, the day of the sentencing, the courthouse was packed with people. Public, reporters, and citizens eagerly awaited the outcome of the final trial. The court found that the case had sufficient evidence and clear proof, declaring Amanda and Solejito guilty of murder, sentencing them to 26 and 25 years in prison, respectively. Most Italians supported the court's verdict. However, people across the Atlantic in the United States did not agree. They believed that the Italian police had a severe bias during the investigation and that Amanda had been presumed guilty from the start. This was considered unjust to Amanda. Some prominent figures spoke out in defense of Amanda.
There's no evidence that links her to this crime other than she said some stupid things after, being tormented for hours and hours and hours.
On November 24, 2010, more than 3 years after the crime, the Italian appellate court reopened the trial. The defense attorney raised doubts about some of the key evidence presented by the prosecution. First, regarding the knife. After examination by experts, they found that Amanda's DNA on the knife's handle was complete and without issues. However, the DNA found on the blade was unclear and consisted of only a very small amount. It was considered forced to conclude that the DNA on the blade certainly belonged to Meredith. Additionally, this knife was only similar to the murder weapon. It could not be definitively identified as the knife used to kill Meredith. Therefore, the defense argued that the court should not consider this evidence. Second, regarding the bra hook found in Meredith's bedroom. It was discovered 47 days after the crime. The lengthy time frame made it very difficult to determine if it had remained in its original position. Besides Solejito's DNA on the hook, DNA from 2 unidentified men was also found. Therefore, there was reason to believe that this piece of evidence had been contaminated. From the video recorded by the police, it was apparent that their crime scene examination process was highly unprofessional. In serious criminal cases like this, such occurrences are rare, and the police were very inexperienced. They not only failed to change their shoes and gloves, but also allowed many unauthorized people to enter the scene, leading to significant contamination. The evidence sent to the laboratory was not stored separately, but piled together, causing DNA from different pieces of evidence to mix. After re-examination, the footprints found at the scene could not be definitively confirmed as Solejito's. Regarding Amanda's false accusation of the bar owner, she claimed that she had been coerced by the police. They did not believe her statements and continuously pressured her until she fabricated a story to satisfy them. This was why she falsely accused Lumumba. On October 3, 2011, the day of the appellate court's verdict, numerous media outlets from around the world anxiously awaited the results outside the courthouse. The Italian appellate court rendered its decision. The court found insufficient evidence to convict and declared defendants Amanda and Solicito not guilty of murder, releasing them immediately. Upon hearing the verdict, Amanda cried with emotion. However, many Italians who had been following the trial were outraged. They could not accept this outcome and believed Amanda was the perpetrator, expressing their frustration with the ruling. At the same time, they hoped that the Italian Supreme Court would review the case. After being released, Amanda returned to her hometown of Seattle, USA. More than 6 years after the crime, on January 30, 2014, the Italian Court of Appeals overturned the acquittal of Amanda and Solicito, declaring them guilty of murder once again. Amanda's sentence was increased from 26 years to 28 years and 6 months in prison. Amanda declared she would never return to Italy. Solicito, within a few days of the new verdict, returned to Italy to contest the murder charges. The reason for this ruling was that the court believed Rudy, who had been convicted of murder, did not act alone. Although Rudy did not state that Amanda and Solicito were involved in the murder, he could not prove they were not present at the scene. On March 27, 2015, the case took another turn. The Italian Supreme Court overturned the appellate court's murder conviction of Amanda and Solicito. The Supreme Court ruled that there was insufficient biological evidence to prove their guilt and declared the case officially closed. No further trials would be held. The case, which had lasted for 8 years and shocked both Italy and the United States, had finally reached its conclusion. However, the debate over whether Amanda was the murderer continued unabated. The evidence could be used to prove her guilt, but also to prove her innocence. Like the Italian justice system, public opinions continuously shifted. The more one delved into the case, the harder it seemed to determine whether Amanda was truly innocent. After returning to the United States at the end of 2011, Amanda completed her studies, began working as a freelance journalist, and wrote a book about her case. She was frequently followed by paparazzi, and her family had incurred significant debt from supporting her in Italy. In 2013, she published a book titled Waiting to be Heard. This memoir about her experiences became a bestseller. Reports indicated that Amanda received $4 million for her memoir, but most of the money went towards covering her legal fees accrued from her Italian lawyers. Amanda was a critic and journalist for the West Seattle Herald at the time, later contributing to the Seattle website and attending Innocence Project events and related organizations. On September 10, 2016, Netflix released a documentary titled Simply Amanda Knox, which included interviews with Amanda and other key figures in the case. The Netflix documentary presented another side of Amanda's story and included direct interviews with her nearly 10 years after the case. In a 2017 interview, Amanda stated she was dedicated to writing and advocating for the wrongfully accused. In 2018, she began hosting the Scarlet Letter Reports, a show exploring the personal journey women shamed publicly. She became a prominent speaker at fundraising events, including those for the Innocence Project. On January 24, 2019, the European Court of Human Rights ordered Italy to compensate Amanda for violating her rights during the hours immediately after her arrest in Perugia, Italy. The court ordered Italy to pay Amanda €18,400, approximately $20,000 at current exchange rates, for failing to provide her with a competent lawyer or interpreter when she was first detained. In June 2019, Amanda returned to Italy as a keynote speaker at a criminal justice conference, where she participated in a workshop titled Media Trials. At that time, Amanda and Solicito had separated. Solicito had married another woman and was living a peaceful life in Italy. On February 29, 2020, Amanda married her longtime boyfriend Christopher Robinson in a Renaissance and Star Wars-themed wedding. They had met after Amanda returned to Seattle in 2011 and announced their engagement in 2019. In October 2020, Amanda and Robinson launched a podcast called Labyrinths, where they discuss their relationship and facilitate empathetic interviews with philosophical discussions and engaging debates. They had released over 100 episodes as of June 2024. In an October 2021 interview with the New York Times, Amanda announced the birth of their first child, a daughter named Eureka, born in August 2021. In September 2023, Amanda gave birth to their second child, a son named Echo. On October 13, 2023, Court of Cassation ordered a retrial of the case. In June 2024, an Italian appellate court overturned Amanda Knox's conviction for falsely accusing Patrick Lumumba of murdering Meredith Kercher in 2007. Her legal saga had spanned many years, even though she had previously been acquitted of murder. Thank you for watching today's video on the Amanda Knox case. We hope the information and analysis provided have given you a clearer understanding of this complex case. If you found the video helpful, please give it a like, leave a comment with your thoughts below, and share it with others. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay updated on our upcoming videos. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.